Avoid, as far as thou canst, the tumult of men, for talk concerning worldly things, though it be innocently undertaken, is a hindrance, so quickly are we led captive and defiled by vanity. Many a time I wish that I had held my peace, and had not gone amongst men. But why do we talk and gossip so continually, seeing that we so rarely resume our silence, without some hurt done to our conscience? Therefore must we watch and pray that time pass not idly away. If it be right and desirable for thee to speak, speak things which are to edification. Devout conversation on spiritual things helpeth not a little to spiritual progress. Seldom too do we entirely conquer even a single fault, nor are we zealous for daily growth in grace. Were we fully watchful of ourselves, and not bound in spirit to outward things, then might we be wise unto salvation. If we would quit ourselves like men, and strive to stand firm in the battle, then should we see the Lord helping us from heaven. Yea, He provideth for us occasions of striving, to the end that we may win the victory. But let us lay the axe to the very root of our life, that, being cleansed from affections, we may possess our souls in peace. If each year should see one fault rooted out from us, we should go quickly on to perfection. But on the contrary, we often feel that we are better and holier in the beginning than after many years of profession of our conversion. Zeal and progress ought to increase day by day, yet now it seemeth a great thing if one is able to retain some portion of his first ardour. If we could put some slight stress on ourselves at the beginning, then afterwards we should be able to do all things with ease and joy. It is a hard thing to break through a habit, and a yet harder thing to go contrary to our own will. Yet if thou overcome not slight and easy obstacles, how shalt thou overcome greater ones? Withstand thy will at the beginning, and unlearn an evil habit, lest it lead thee little by little into worse difficulties. Oh, if thou knewest what peace thy holy life should bring to thyself, and what joy to others, thou wouldst be more zealous for spiritual profit. It is good for us that we sometimes have sorrows and adversities, for they often make a man lay to heart that he is only a stranger and sojourner, and may not put his trust in any worldly thing. It is good that we sometimes endure contradictions, and are hardly and unfairly judged when we do and mean what is good, for these things help us to be humble, and shield us from vainglory. Therefore ought a man to rest wholly upon God, so that he needeth not seek much comfort at the hand of man. When a man who feareth God is afflicted or tried, then he seeth that God is the more necessary unto him, since without God he can do no good thing. Then he is heavy of heart, he groaneth, he crieth out for the very disquietness of his heart. Then he groweth weary of life, and would fain depart and be with Christ. By all this he is taught that in the world there can be no perfect security or fullness of peace. The life of man upon the earth is a trial. Job 7 verse 1. And therefore ought each of us to give heed concerning trials and temptations, and watch unto prayer, lest the devil find occasion to deceive. For he never sleepeth, but goeth about, seeking whom he may devour. Temptations turn greatly unto our profit, even though they be great and hard to bear. For through them we are humbled, purified, instructed, and they who endured not temptation became reprobate and fell away. There is no position so sacred, no place so secret, that it is without temptations and adversities, because we have the root of temptation within ourselves, and always we shall have somewhat to suffer, for we have fallen from perfect happiness. By endurance and true humility we are made stronger than all our enemies. He who only resisteth outwardly, and pulleth not up by the root, shall profit little. Rather temptations will return to him the more quickly. Little by little, through patience and long-suffering, thou shalt conquer by the help of God, rather than thine own strength of will. In the midst of temptation, often seek counsel. The beginning of all temptations to evil is instability of temper. For even as a ship without a helm is tossed about by the waves, so is a man who is careless and infirm of purpose tempted. As fire testeth iron, so doth temptation the upright man. But temptation revealeth to us what we are. Nevertheless we must watch, especially in the beginnings of temptation, for then is the foe the more easily mastered, when he is not suffered to enter within the mind, but is met outside the door as soon as he hath knocked. And the longer a man delayeth his resistance, the weaker he groweth, and the stronger groweth the enemy against him. For we ought not to despair when we are tempted, but the more fervently should cry unto God, and that he will, as St. Paul said, with the temptation make a way to escape, that we may be able to bear it. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13. For he will save and exalt such as are of an humble spirit. Many are secretly seeking their own ends in what they do, yet know it not. They seem to live in good peace of mind, so long as things go well with them. But if their desires be frustrated and broken, immediately they are shaken and displeased. If thou rest more upon thy own reason or experience than upon the power of Jesus Christ, thy light shall come slowly and hardly. For God willeth us to be perfectly subject unto himself. For no worldly good whatsoever, and for the love of no man, must anything be done which is evil. Without charity no work profiteth, but whatsoever is done in charity, however small, and of no reputation it be, bringeth forth good fruit. He doth much who loveth much. He doth well who ministereth to the public good, rather than to his own. Oftentimes that seemeth to be charity, which is rather carnality, because it springeth from natural inclination, self-will, hope of repayment, desire of gain. He who hath true and perfect charity in no wise seeketh his own good, but desireth that God alone be altogether glorified. Nor doth he desire to rejoice in himself. He ascribeth good to none, save to God only, the fountain whence all good proceedeth. O, he who hath but a spark of true charity hath verily learned that all worldly things are full of vanity. How seldom we weigh our neighbour in the same balance with ourselves. How much strength each man hath is best proved by occasions of adversity. It behoveth thee to learn to mortify thyself in many things, if thou wilt stand fast and wilt profit as thou oughtest. Hold thyself as an exile and a pilgrim upon the earth. Thou wilt have to be counted as a fool for Christ. The clothing and outward appearance are of small account. It is change of character and entire mortification of the affections which make a truly religious man. He who seeketh aught save God and the health of his soul shall find only tribulation and sorrow. Nor can he stand long in peace who striveth not to be least of all and servant of all. Thou art called to endure and to labour, not to a life of ease and trifling talk. Here, therefore, are men tried as gold in the furnace. No man can stand unless with all his heart he will humble himself for God's sake. Oh, how many and grievous tribulations did the apostles, martyrs, and all others who would walk in the footsteps of Christ! What long and grievous temptations they did suffer! How often were they assaulted by the enemy! What frequent and fervid prayers did they offer unto God! What strict fasts did they endure! What fervent zeal and desire after spiritual profit did they manifest! How bravely did they fight that their vices might not gain the mastery! How entirely and steadfastly did they reach after God! By day they laboured, and at night they gave themselves ofttimes unto prayer. Even when they were labouring they ceased not from mental prayer. They spent their whole time profitably, and through the great sweetness of contemplation, even the need of bodily refreshment was forgotten. They renounced all riches, dignities, honours, friends, kinsmen. They desired nothing from the world. They ate the bare necessaries of life. Thus they were poor in earthly things, but rich above measure in grace and virtue. They seemed unto themselves as of no reputation, and in the world's eye contemptible, but in the sight of God they were precious and beloved. To all religious men they were given as an example, and they ought more to provoke us into good livings than the number of the lukewarm tempteth to carelessness of life. Now a man is counted great, if only he be not a transgressor, and if he can only endure with patience what he hath undertaken.